The factory is an urban metabolism that renews the site while also transforming organic food waste into new products, thus creating a closed-loop system. I am lucky to have found this living remediation machine as my new home. I live alongside not just the Sunset Park community, but also with all my friends from the local flora and fauna. This building is a living organism for all the residents of the city. Look, the visitors are coming. This one traveled to the site by biking on the Greenway. He certainly heard about New York City Mayor de Blasio's initiative for food waste as the new recycling frontier, and came to learn what the process is all about. In my home here, the invisible processes are made visible for everyone to see. Let's go see Stefan.
I have been working here since the factory was built. Every morning, we, our team of employees and factory floor workers, keep this living remediation machine flowing smoothly. Today, I'll be giving an informational tour to our visitors.
This visitor just picked up his brochure from the visitor center and is beginning his journey through the site. Let's follow along. The factory edge hosts a living shoreline and deep landscape, serving as a mitigator between machine and the environment. The wetlands carry the flora of the dry landscape into the water, providing additional types of habitats for animals like me. The water plants do their part in cleaning pollutants from Gowanus Bay. The deep landscape serves as a tool for soil bioremediation. It is planted with crops such as mushroom. The mushroom roots, or mycelium, have many benefits for eliminating pollutants embedded in the depths of the soil. The dense covering of the factory creates a threshold between the controlled and mechanized processes of the interior with the wildlife that activates the site. The roof is heavily planted with lavender as to infuse the air of the adjacent neighborhood with fragrant aromas rather than smelly food waste. The building is strategically situated as to take advantage of the prevailing winds, both in the exterior and interior functions. It is also designed to take advantage of daylight. Skylights run across the roof structure in alternation with planters in order to provide a well-lit and ventilated space for all workers within the building. The planter beam structure of the roof folds down to shape the facade of the factory. The facade is planted with mushrooms. The mushroom roots, mycelium, are harvested and used within the factory processes in combination with organic food waste to manufacture biodegradables. Our visitor is now wondering where the waste is coming from. Organic food waste travels to the site on barges to reduce CO2 emissions from vehicular transportation. Stefan, the factory worker, will give us some details.
New York City imports 20.7 billion pounds of food per year. Sunset Park is the second biggest hub for food import after Hunts Point in the Bronx. The city exports 2.7 million tons of food waste per year using strategically located transfer points, the largest being in Bushwick, Brooklyn, not far from this living remediation machine. Today, New York City food waste travels long distances to other states as far as South Carolina. The typical food cycle is linear. It goes from production to processing, then distribution, consumption, and finally ends up in a landfill, releasing a huge number of tons of methane a year.
As you heard, my new home introduces a significant shift in the paradigm, shrinking distances and transforming waste into innovative biodegradable materials. The factory floor consists of open-air, semi-enclosed, and enclosed spaces. Essential spaces include the waste processing room, the triple-deck platforms, the processed goods export hall, the water treatment and energy generating rooms, the mushroom processing spaces, the hands-on visitor classroom, and the offices.
Food waste is unloaded from the barges and set aside on the outdoor platform on the west side of the site. It is then input into the waste processing line. Organic waste is processed into two major channels. The first is slurry and the second is agrofibers. The first channel gives us a slurry. This slurry travels through the factory's triple-deck processing platforms.
I see workers monitoring this space all day long. The slurry first goes through aerobic digestion, then diverges into further processing routes. One part of the digestate is taken to the compost platforms. The compost is on the highest level as it requires direct UV light provided by the skylight. It also requires water collection from the roof planter beams. The planter beams in certain instances go as deep as to reach the ground. The compost is used for intensive planting happening on site. Additional compost is packaged. It then travels down the planter chute shown on the left and is exported through our barges to other urban farms in New York. The other part of the digestate goes into anaerobic digestion, thus turning into biogas that supplies the factory as well as provides electricity to the adjacent neighborhood.
Now, back to the processing line. The organic food waste undergoes the further level of processing in order to yield organic fibers, which will be used to make biodegradable materials, namely biopackaging. This process takes place on the second floor. The fibers travel up the planter chute to reach the second floor. They start by being sieved and prepared to be mixed with mycelium to create biopackaging. The mycelium is harvested from the mushroom trays grown within the factory. The mixture consists of mycelium, organic fibers, and water. The water used to prepare the mixture is collected from the rooftop planters and trickles down using gravity into the water column. After the mixture is prepared, it is molded and set in the dark room. It is then baked in the oven that uses the heat generated from the electric room placed strategically one floor below. Once finished, the biopackaging is sent down the planter chutes to the mushroom processing space as well as the export platform.
Now that Stefan has walked the visitors through the whole process, let's recap. The living remediation machine is in essence a deep landscape. It emerges from the soil and grows incrementally. The productive beds are sloped with two orientations. While the mushroom beds face north and are planted with heavy tree canopies for shading, the crop beds face south. These planting beds are used for lavender as well as urban farming. The planter beams of the roof are a continuation of the landscape. They vary in depth, sometimes even extending from the roof to the ground. From the loading dock, the workers export crops, compost, and biopackaging, all produced in the interior and exterior spaces of the factory complex. Along the walkable roofscape are ramps leading into the building. These serve as viewing platforms for visitors to see into the activities of the factory floor. As for me, I get to enjoy this vibrant urban remediation machine that renews the site on a daily basis. It has many scales of impact, from the very local to the larger urban. I enjoy looking over the bustling activity of the factory and its relationship to New York City, all while feeling protected by its rich habitat.